General Hospital spoilers hint that Maxie Jones may go missing from her new coma care unit. Will the mystery boss make his next move and cause quite a stir with Maxie's disappearance? Jen Sidwell was grateful for the compound that his mysterious associate supplied since it worked perfectly. Maxie obviously can't spill any Sonny Corinthos evidence in her current comatose state, so Sidwell is pleased since silencing her was the goal here. Of course, it's interesting that Sidwell is satisfied with this comatose outcome. Maxie is alive and could still wake up at some point, but maybe that's what the mystery boss had in mind with this particular compound. It would have been easy to give Maxie something guaranteed to kill her if that was the goal instead. Maxie faced a bit of a close call in the hospital, but she still pulled through and is on ice now that she's been transferred to Mass General in Boston. However, Mass General may not be Maxie's final stop. It's possible that the mystery boss will want her transferred to the Five Poppies Resort or another property connected to all his lab work. That's especially true if the coma experts at Mass General are as good as Lucas Jones claims they are. Maxie's medical team may figure out a treatment that could lead to her coma awakening. What if Sidwell's mysterious associate monitors the situation and decides to move Maxie before that happens? There might be a situation where Maxie disappears from her new coma care unit, which could leave her loved ones desperate for answers. James West gave Maxie the police badge that belonged to Nathan West, so she'd have it with her as she recovers. That could be a hint about the next phase of Maxie's storyline. Perhaps Maxie could be taken to wherever Ryan Paevey's character is. Whether he's a fellow captive patient or even the mystery boss himself, there's no confirmation yet on whether Paevey's playing Nathan or someone else, but he's bound to make some waves when he finally pops up. This could even be a case of brainwashing or perhaps Peter August making moves with a new face. Regardless, Maxie will remain out of the picture for a while, due to Kirsten Storm's extended break from the show. To explain Maxie's continued absence and set up what comes next, she might ultimately go missing from Mass General and spark some panic. General Hospital spoilers report Ava Jerome secured a prescription for sleeping pills from Lucas Jones, but whispers suggest a far darker intent. In a recent episode, Ava claimed to suffer from insomnia after her split with Rick Lansing, but the timing is suspicious, coming right after she clocked Rick over the head in Alexis Davis's, with Christina Corinthos Davis watching it all go down. Now tied up in the basement, Rick's captivity has Ava plotting. What if she uses those pills to poison him, framing Christina for murder? Christina and Alexis are already in deep, helping hide Rick, but Ava's solo ploy could send them both to prison. Will Ava's twisted plan work? Or will it backfire spectacularly? Ava's sleeping pill scheme takes a deadly turn. Ava's request for sleeping pills from Lucas, citing post-breakup stress, raises red flags, especially since she's knee-deep in Rick's assault cover-up. Fans theorize she's not planning to pop them herself but to overdose Rick while Christina's on watch in the basement, making it look like Christina poisoned him in a panic. Ava's history of dodging charges and manipulating allies makes this plausible. She could slip the pills into Rick's food or water, then discover his body and pin it on Christina's grudge over the break-tampering blackmail. This frame job would eliminate Rick as a threat and tighten Ava's control. But it's a high-wire act. If Rick survives or talks, Ava is the one exposed. Ava spies a path to prison for Christina and Alexis. Christina's vulnerability makes her the perfect fall guy in Ava's eyes. She's already fragile from losing her daughter and sister and family feuds, and her role in hiding Rick ties her to the scene. If Ava succeeds in poisoning Rick, Christina could face murder charges, with Ava testifying she saw Christina dosing him. Alexis, now part of the pack to keep Rick captive, might get dragged in as an accessory if evidence links her home to the crime. Ava's ploy could send mother and daughter to prison, clearing her path while destroying the Davis family. But Christina's ties mean Sonny Corinthos might sniff out the setup, turning the tables on Ava. Ava's risky gamble. Backfire or brilliant? Underestimating Ava's ruthlessness is a mistake. She's capable of anything to protect herself, as her past schemes prove. But if Drew Quartermain or Molly Lansing Davis gets wind of Rick's disappearance, Ava's plan could crumble. Molly, Rick's daughter, might not buy a frame job on Christina, potentially rallying allies to expose Ava. If Rick overdoses but lives, his testimony could bury her. Will Ava pull off this murderous frame? Or will her pills employs lead to her own downfall? This could be Ava's deadliest mistake yet. Stay tuned for more GH news and spoilers to see how this plays out. The hospital halls were buzzing with tension as the news began to spread that Maxie had gone missing from the new coma care unit. It wasn't just a random disappearance. This had the fingerprints of something darker, something calculated. The newly opened wing of the hospital had promised top-of-the-line security, enhanced patient monitoring, and limited access. For someone like Maxie, who had been in a fragile state and under constant observation, simply vanishing wasn't possible without inside help. Nurses whispered in small groups, doctors exchanged uneasy glances, and the security team scrambled to review footage, but early reports suggested something chilling. The cameras during the critical time frame had mysteriously gone offline. No one wanted to say it out loud, but it was becoming increasingly clear that someone had orchestrated this. Max Scorpio was the first to arrive at the scene, his face pale with barely restrained panic. Maxie wasn't just another missing patient. She was family, his niece, and someone he had vowed to protect. He pressed for answers, his voice sharp, demanding reports from anyone who had been on duty. But the staff had little to offer. One nurse claimed to have checked on Maxie at 2:15 a.m., confirming she was stable, and then by 2:30 the room was empty. No alarms, no signs of struggle, nothing out of place except for one unsettling detail. Maxie's hospital bracelet had been found discarded under the bed. Max's instincts screamed at him that this wasn't a simple abduction. This was a message, one meant to rattle everyone involved. Meanwhile, Anna Devane, who had just returned from an overseas operation, rushed to Port Charles the moment she heard the news. Her first suspicion landed on the so-called mystery boss, an elusive figure whose influence had been rippling through town for weeks, manipulating events behind the scenes. From shady financial dealings to unexplained security breaches, Anna had been tracking breadcrumbs leading to someone pulling strings at multiple levels. If Maxie's disappearance was connected, then this wasn't random at all, this was strategic. Anna immediately requested access to hospital security logs, cross-referencing them with recent activity from known criminal networks, but something didn't add up. Whoever had orchestrated this had knowledge of the hospital's systems, the staff's routines, and the blind spots in surveillance. Wiped certain logs and remotely disabled several cameras. But the IP trail didn't lead to an external hacker. It was routed through the hospital's internal network. Someone on the inside had granted permission for Maxie to be taken. Elsewhere, Felicia was struggling to keep her composure. Her hands trembled as she clutched her phone, repeatedly calling Maxie's number even though she knew it was pointless. She refused to believe her daughter was simply gone. Felicia's instincts as a mother told her something bigger was at play, and she wouldn't rest until she found her. When she cornered one of the attending nurses, a young woman who looked pale and shaken, Felicia finally pried loose a fragment of truth. The nurse confessed she had seen a man in hospital scrubs exiting the coma care unit minutes before the cameras went down. His ID badge was visible but blurred in her memory. She only recalled one distinctive detail. The man wore an unusual silver ring with a snake insignia etched into it. That symbol sent chills down Felicia's spine because she recognized it from one of Anna's older investigations involving a dangerous syndicate with deep pockets and even deeper grudges. By mid-afternoon, the hospital transformed into a war room. Jordan Ashford arrived, commanding the PCPD task force and coordinating with Anna. Dante Falconeri was dispatched to question the staff while Chase reviewed hours of adjacent hallway footage, looking for any unexplained movement. But frustration mounted when every potential lead seemed to evaporate. Whoever planned this had thought of everything. The use of fake badges, compromised internal access, and strategically timed surveillance shutdowns meant they were always one step ahead. Outside the hospital, rumors began swirling. Some claimed the mystery boss had been using the coma care unit as a cover for experimental procedures on unconscious patients, while others whispered about connections to a larger conspiracy involving medical supply cartels. Whatever the motive, one thing was undeniable. Maxie wasn't the first target, but she might be the most important one yet. At the same time, Valentine Cassadine, who had been keeping a close watch on the rise of this mystery figure, reached out to Anna with unsettling information. A shipment of experimental neuroregenerative drugs had been stolen from a secure Cassadine facility weeks earlier, and his sources hinted that the stolen formula had surfaced in black market clinics overseas. If the mystery boss had secured access to this formula, Maxie's abduction might have nothing to do with ransom or revenge. It could be about using her as part of some larger medical experiment. The thought was horrifying, but it explained why she had been taken from a specialized coma care unit rather than elsewhere. Late that night, as the hospital quieted and the investigation slowed, Spinelli made a breakthrough. While analyzing fragments of corrupted security footage, he discovered a single clear frame from an overlooked hallway camera. It showed a masked figure wheeling Maxie's bed down a restricted corridor, a corridor that didn't exist on the hospital's current blueprints. This meant there was a hidden passage or an unregistered section within the hospital itself. When he cross-referenced older architectural plans, he found something chilling. A sealed-off wing beneath the hospital, a remnant from decades ago that had been abandoned after a failed research project. Somehow, someone had reopened it, and the trail led straight there. Anna, Mac, Dante, and Spinelli assembled a small team and descended into the forgotten sublevel. The deeper they went, the colder and darker it became, the faint hum of machinery guiding them forward. At the end of the narrow hallway, they found a locked steel door secured with a biometric scanner, the kind only a handful of people in the entire hospital would have access to. Before they could attempt to bypass it, however, the faint sound of footsteps echoed behind them. A shadow moved in the darkness, fast and silent, and before anyone could react, the lights cut out. In that moment, chaos erupted. Anna drew her weapon while Dante searched for the source of the noise. When the lights flickered back on seconds later, the corridor was empty, but the biometric lock had disengaged. Someone on the inside had opened it remotely. The team stormed into the hidden chamber, only to find it abandoned. A faint chemical smell lingered in the air, and on a nearby table sat a syringe filled with a mysterious blue liquid, still warm as though recently used. In the corner of the room, a small screen displayed Maxie's vitals. She was alive, but wherever she had been moved, they were keeping close track of her condition. Valentine's theory about the experimental drug suddenly gained weight. Whoever had Maxie wasn't just holding her. They were monitoring her for something specific, likely testing the stolen formula. But before the team could gather more evidence, the hospital security system triggered a lockdown, trapping them in the lower level. Over the intercom, a distorted voice finally spoke for the first time, mocking them. "You're too late. Maxie is part of something much bigger than you can comprehend. Walk away, or more lives will vanish." Back upstairs, Felicia was growing restless and demanded answers. Her determination pushed her to confront Valentine directly, accusing him of knowing more than he was sharing. Tensions flared, and in the heated exchange, Valentine reluctantly admitted he had tracked recent activity from a shadow organization known as Helix Industries, a company front-tied to high-level bioengineering experiments. The mystery boss appeared to be working with them, using Port Charles as a testing ground. If that was true, Maxie's abduction was just the beginning. As the night wore on, Anna pieced together one final clue from Valentine's data. A private transport helicopter had taken off from a nearby airfield under a fake medical clearance, heading toward a remote compound miles outside of Port Charles. With no time to lose, she, Dante, and Valentine prepared to intercept, knowing this could be their only chance to rescue Maxie before she disappeared for good. But just as they were ready to leave, Spinelli received an encrypted message on his laptop. It was a video feed. Maxie, conscious but weak, restrained to a medical chair in an unfamiliar room. A masked figure appeared behind her and whispered something chilling into the camera. "The next move isn't yours. It's mine." The entire team froze, knowing that the game had changed. This wasn't just about Maxie anymore. This was a war, and the mystery boss had just declared it. Ava sat in the dim glow of her apartment, the faint hum of the city outside barely penetrating the thick walls. Her fingers traced the edge of a small, amber pill bottle, its contents a secret she guarded with the same ferocity as her intentions. The bottle was unremarkable to anyone else, just another prescription, another name on a label. But to Ava it was a key, a tool, a silent partner in a plan that had been simmering in her mind for months. She didn't trust anyone with the details, not her closest confidants, not the men who came and went from her life like shadows, and certainly not Christina, the woman whose downfall she was meticulously orchestrating. Ava's world was one of calculated moves and hidden motives, and Ava was the spider at its center. The city of Port Charles had always been a place of secrets, where alliances shifted like the tides and loyalty was a currency rarely spent. Ava knew this better than most. She clawed her way through its underbelly, navigating the dangerous currents of power and betrayal with a smile that could disarm or destroy, depending on her mood. Her art gallery, a gleaming facade of sophistication, was the perfect cover. A place where the elite mingled unaware of the machinations brewing beneath the surface. It was here, among the polished floors and pristine canvases, that Ava first began to notice Christina, the Corinthos heiress, whose earnestness grated against Ava's sharper edges. Christina's life seemed charmed, her family's influence a shield Ava envied and despised. That envy had grown into something darker, something that whispered to Ava in the quiet hours, urging her to act. The plan began as a flicker, a stray thought that took root during a sleepless night. Ava had been sipping wine, staring at the city skyline when the idea struck. What if Christina, the golden child, fell from grace? Not just a scandal, not just a public humiliation, but something irreversible, something that would strip her of everything. Murder was the perfect frame, gruesome, final, and utterly damning. The thought thrilled Ava, not because she craved violence, but because it was a puzzle that demanded her intellect, her cunning. She could already see the headlines, the shocked faces, the whispers of disbelief. Christina, a murderer? The idea was almost laughable, which was precisely why it would work. No one would suspect Ava, the grieving friend, the shocked bystander, while Christina's world crumbled. The first step was the pills. Ava had always been careful with her prescriptions, a collection of sedatives and painkillers amassed over years of convenient ailments. She knew their effects, their risks, their potential to be weaponized. The bottle in her hand now was special, untraceable, filled with a cocktail of substances that could incapacitate without leaving a clear trail. She'd spent weeks researching, consulting discreet contacts in the medical world, ensuring the mix was perfect. The pills were her insurance, a way to subdue her target without raising suspicion. But they were only part of the equation. Framing Christina required more than a body. It required a narrative, a story so compelling that no one would question it. Ava needed evidence, witnesses, a trail that led inexorably to Christina's door. She began by studying Christina's routines, her habits, her weaknesses. Ava was patient, her observations meticulous. She noted the coffee shop Christina visited every morning, the gym where she worked out, the quiet moments when she was alone. Ava befriended her, not overtly, but with the subtle charm that had always been her greatest asset. She'd offer a sympathetic ear, a shared laugh, a carefully timed compliment. Christina, trusting and unguarded, never suspected the trap being laid. Ava's visits to the Corinthos household grew frequent, her presence unremarkable. She'd linger in doorways, memorizing the layout, noting the security cameras, the schedules of the staff. Every detail was a piece of the puzzle, and Ava was nothing if not thorough. The murder itself was the trickiest part. Ava had no intention of getting her hands dirty. Too risky, too messy. She needed a proxy, someone expendable, someone who could be manipulated or coerced. She found him in a dive bar on the edge of town, a man named Tommy whose debts outweighed his morals. Tommy was perfect. Desperate, greedy, and just smart enough to follow instructions without asking too many questions. Ava approached him with the precision of a predator, her words laced with promises of money and protection. She spun a story about a personal vendetta, a need to send a message, keeping the details vague enough to protect herself. Tommy didn't need to know about Christina. He only needed to know his role. The target was a low-level dealer, someone whose death wouldn't raise too many eyebrows but would carry enough weight to shock the community. Ava chose him carefully. A man with ties to the Corinthos family, someone Christina had crossed paths with in her misguided attempts to help her father's business. The dealer's death would look like a betrayal, a power play gone wrong, and Christina's name would be the one whispered in connection. Ava provided Tommy with the tools, the pills, a knife, a burner phone. She coached him on the timing, the location, the exact words to use when he made the anonymous tip to the police. Every step was choreographed, every contingency planned. Ava's ploys extended beyond Tommy. She planted seeds of doubt in Christina's circle, subtle hints that something was off. A forged text message here, a misplaced item there, a whispered rumor about Christina's temper. She used her gallery as a stage, hosting events where Christina's behavior could be scrutinized, Her frustrations amplified. Ava knew how to manipulate perceptions, how to make people see what she wanted them to see. She'd drop a comment about Christina's stress, her erratic moods, always with a tone of concern. The groundwork was laid, the stage set. When the dealer's body was found, the evidence would point to Christina. Her fingerprints on a glass at the scene, her car spotted nearby, her name in the victim's phone. The pills remained Ava's ace in the hole. She kept them hidden, tucked away in a safe behind a painting in her office. They were her fail-safe, a way to ensure the plan's success even if something went wrong. If Tommy faltered, if the police looked too closely, Ava could use the pills to create a new narrative. Perhaps Christina had been drugged, her actions not her own, but the result would be the same: guilt, shame, ruin. Ava relished the thought, not out of cruelty, but out of a strange sense of justice. Christina's privilege.